The Supreme Court ruled that federal approval of the product's label blocks state lawsuits, even when someone claims the label should have warned about cancer risks. The decision affects millions of Americans who use pesticides, medications, and medical devices, potentially making it much harder to hold companies accountable when they get hurt. Nine Robes uses nonpartisan, everyday language to focus on the facts of what the Supreme Court is saying. Here, you'll find clear, concise summaries of every Supreme Court opinion, stripped of legalese and clickbait headlines. Each post breaks down the facts, explains the court's reasoning, and highlights the crucial details that often go unnoticed. It's not just about what the court decided. It's about why those decisions matter, to give you a deeper understanding of the cases that define our nation's legal landscape. These summaries are generated by AI. Be careful and consult reputable sources when in doubt. John Durnell used Roundup for about 20 years before developing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of cancer. He sued Monsanto in Missouri, arguing the company should have warned him about cancer risks on the label. A jury agreed and awarded him over $1 million in damages. But Monsanto fought back using a federal law called FIFRA. This law says that once the Environmental Protection Agency approves a pesticide label, states cannot demand different warnings. Monsanto argued that because the EPA had approved Roundup's label without a cancer warning, Durnell's lawsuit was illegal. The Missouri Appeals Court sided with Durnell, but the Supreme Court reversed that decision in a 7-2 ruling. The court said federal law blocked his lawsuit entirely. Monsanto's position was simply that the EPA approved the label, so that approval is final. Any state lawsuit demanding a different warning asks for something federal law forbids. The company pointed to an earlier Supreme Court case about medical devices that used the same legal reasoning. Durnell countered that both federal and state law require adequate warnings to protect people's health. He argued there was no real conflict between the two. He also said EPA approval is not the final word on whether a label is safe enough. The federal government sided with Monsanto, arguing that companies using EPA-approved labels should not face state lawsuits. Justice Kavanaugh wrote for the majority. The court reasoned that EPA approval creates a binding federal requirement. Because the EPA must confirm that a label includes all necessary warnings before approving it, manufacturers must use that exact label or face penalties. When Durnell's lawsuit demanded a cancer warning the EPA had not approved, it conflicted with federal law and had to be blocked. The majority relied heavily on the medical device case, noting that pesticide law has nearly identical language. If FDA approval blocked state lawsuits for medical devices, EPA approval should do the same for pesticides. Justice Thomas agreed with the outcome but raised concerns about whether federal agencies should have this much power to block state lawsuits without clearer direction from Congress. Justice Jackson, joined by Justice Gorsuch, disagreed. They argued the real federal requirement is simply that labels cannot be misleading or inadequate. Missouri's law imposes that same general duty, so there is no conflict. They pointed to language in the law saying EPA approval is only preliminary evidence of compliance, not a final determination. If an approved label can still violate federal law, then approval itself cannot be a binding requirement. The dissenters also noted that Monsanto could ask the EPA to approve a new label with a cancer warning, or stop selling the product. Because compliance with both laws was possible, they saw no reason to block the lawsuit. This decision affects far more than Roundup. The court noted that food, drugs, meat, and medical devices all use similar federal approval systems. The ruling makes it significantly harder for people injured by consumer products to sue in state court, even when they believe a company failed to warn them about dangers. The case reveals a genuine tension in law. Should federal approval of a product label be treated as the final word on safety, or should people still be able to sue in state court if they believe a label is inadequate? The majority chose federal finality and consistency. The dissenters chose to preserve state courts as a backup check on federal decisions. For everyday Americans, the majority's approach means fewer lawsuits and potentially less pressure on companies to add warnings, while the dissent's approach would have kept more cases in court. Find us online at 9robes.ai. That's the number 9robes.ai. Like and share this podcast with friends that like to be informed. 9 Robes provides AI summaries of U.S. Supreme Court cases. AI makes mistakes. People make mistakes too. We genuinely do our best to provide you with the most accurate summaries, but our best sometimes includes errors.